After countless hardships, I finally won the male lead's heart. The night we confirmed our relationship, Ollie held me in his arms and tried every possible position with me in the apartment. The system suddenly screamed, "You've got the wrong person. This is the villain. The cunning, obsessive, vengeful Yandere villain from the novel." Those who dared deceive him were reduced to ashes without a trace. What else can I do? I've done everything I could. In the morning, as I got out of bed, he grabbed my wrist and pleaded in a hoarse voice, acting coquettishly, "Don't go. Stay with me a little longer." I kissed him and said, "I'll be right back." Then I vanished without a trace. He was searching for me like crazy when suddenly a message from me popped up on his phone. "You're terrible in bed. Let's break up." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. I understand the logic, but damn it. I already said those things to him. And now you're telling me not only did I transmigrate back to this world, but I also have to win over the male lead right under his nose. The crappy system said, "Well, there's nothing we can do about it now. It's already happened. Besides, that incident was 5 years ago. He must have forgotten about it by now." Currently, we are at Ollie's investment auction. The auction hall was ablaze with lights, buzzing with voices, the air thick with an aura of luxury and mystery. I put on my mask and nervously weaved through the crowd, my gaze instinctively searching for that familiar figure. Ollie wore a tailored black suit with the collar slightly open, revealing delicate collarbones, exuding an undeniable aura of dominance. At this moment, he was surrounded by a constellation of high-net-worth individuals, basking in their adoration. It seemed as though he and I no longer belonged to the same world. Over the past 5 years, Ollie had single-handedly built his business empire, a far cry from his former self. Who is he? With just a glance, City A trembles at his feet. A true heavyweight. You dare offend anyone but him. At that moment, he lifted his thin eyelids, his gaze lightly settling upon me. I wore a mask, knowing he wouldn't recognize me. At that moment, my breath caught tight, as if someone had gripped my throat. Fortunately, his gaze lingered on me for only a few seconds before moving away, as if he had merely been looking at something utterly insignificant. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. When I first came to this world, I was only 10 years old, called Wallace Porter, the Porter family's adopted daughter. The system dropped a line. The male lead is the Porter family's young master. Hurry up and go win him over, before running out of power and going into hibernation. I looked at the Porter family's 2 young masters and fell into deep thought. Ollie, the Porter family's long-lost true young master, 12 years old, had just been Porter family's found and brought back. Osborne, the falsely raised young master of the Porter family, 12 years old, was doted on and raised in luxury by the Porter family since childhood. Ollie had just returned to the Porter family when the Porter family matriarch coldly told him, "Our family doesn't value blood ties. Even if you've returned, the most important members of this household will always be Osborne and Wallace. Do you understand?" Having suffered hardships while drifting outside, Ollie bore not a single patch of unblemished skin, yet his wolf-like eyes remained. Without uttering a word, he silently stared at her, sending chills down her spine. Precisely because of this, the Porter matriarch believed him to be an ungrateful wretch, corrupted by lowlifes during his years away, and never showed him a kind expression. His appearance also gives me a headache. Who is the real male lead after all? I must make a choice as soon as possible. I'm only 10 years old, yet I'm already busy arranging a room for Ollie and picking out new clothes for him. I pulled open the curtains in the room and flashed him a big smile. "Brother, this will be your room from now on. It's very close to mine. So I'll come to play with you every day. Sunlight illuminated his shadow that had been dim, and for the first time, a spark of life appeared in his eyes. Ollie and Osborne share the same birthday. Ollie on his birthday. The whole family went on a trip to celebrate Osborne's birthday instead. I thought Ollie was pitiful being home alone, so I pretended to be sick and secretly stayed behind without telling Ollie. When Ollie came home alone with his backpack, his lonely figure walking in, I suddenly turned on all the lights and flashed him a big smile. Surprise! On the table was a birthday cake with Ollie's name written on it. The room was carefully decorated, filled with balloons and streamers everywhere. He said it was the first birthday he had ever celebrated. From then on, his attitude towards me changed. According to the system's description, the male lead should be the strongest person in this small world. Looking at Osborne, who had been well-trained since childhood and could play even the most difficult pieces without a single hitch, I became even more convinced that he was the true male lead. But just to be safe, I picked out a very difficult math problem and laid it out in front of them. Whoever solves my math problem first gets a hug from me. I made sure to wash myself thoroughly with orange-scented shower gel, leaving me smelling sweet. Looking back now, the prize was so lame it's almost laughable. But Ollie and Osborne both immediately buried their heads in thought over that math problem. I thought for sure it would be Osborne, who had been surrounded by renowned tutors since childhood and received an excellent education, who would solve it first. Unexpectedly, Ollie finished it 3 minutes faster than Osborne. Only then did I realize that Ollie's intelligence far surpassed Osborne's. He must be the real male lead. My conquest mission has begun. I stood up and threw myself at him, giving him a big hug, and even planted a loud kiss on his cheek. Brother, you're amazing. Ollie had never received such an enthusiastic hug before. He stood there stunned for a long moment before slowly reaching out to embrace me, burying me in his arms as if he had obtained some precious treasure. For a while, I was obsessed with the piano. My hands are clumsy. I can't play the piano as well as Osborne does. Like a true gentleman, his nimble fingers played Jasmine Flower on the piano as a gift to me. Ollie noticed that whenever Osborne played the piano, I would just stand there staring at him in a daze. He watched along with me, but while I watched purely for appreciation, he accurately memorized every key position and Osborne's every movement after just one viewing. Then, he played it for me. He truly was a one-in-a-million genius. With a photographic memory and perfect pitch, the Porter family gradually became aware of Ollie's intelligence and talents, shifting their attention to him in an attempt to mend their relationship. But they had already missed Ollie's only opportunity to open his heart to them. When he first returned home, they did not accept him. Then there was no need to do so thereafter. He was unruly, stubborn, and had a terrible temper. Yet he softened only for me, to attend the same university as me. He frantically crammed knowledge during my high school years. Later, when we both got into the same top-tier university, he chose the same major as me and tutored me all along. Later, he started his own business, and his career was no less impressive than the Porter family's. We confirmed our relationship. Who would have thought that someone so outstanding wasn't the male lead? I searched everywhere in the auction venue for the male lead's figure. According to the plot, I need to take a knife for him to make him develop feelings for me. Finally, I saw that familiar figure from behind. As expected of the male lead, he looks gentle and kind, completely different from the villain, the one I've been overlooking all along. The Porter family's fake young master, Osborne. I raised my wine glass and was about to walk over when a figure suddenly blocked my path. The man's shadow loomed over me, and I slowly lifted my gaze to meet his icy stare. If it wasn't Ollie, then who else could it be? What does he want? I nervously adjusted my mask tighter. Mr. Ollie. Ollie stared at me. You called me Mr. Ollie. I suppressed the urge to flee. That's what everyone calls you. I couldn't see clearly, but in the darkness, Ollie's eyes flickered with an emotion, dark and dangerous. On the night we made it official, he kissed me, wrapped his arms around my waist, his breath scorching as he asked me over and over, "What do you call me?" I wrapped my thighs around his narrow waist, breathing against his sensitive ear. I said, "Boyfriend." Say it again. Hubby. I soon regretted it. He picked me up and pinned me against the marble desk, leaning in to kiss my lips. Then, everything spiraled out of control. He held me down, positioning me in a way that left me defenseless, freely indulging his desires, as if enduring for a very, very long time. Now, I call him Mr. Ollie. This address is restrained, distant, like a cold ruler, clearly demarcating the boundaries of our relationship. He sneered and asked for my name. For some reason, I didn't dare to expose myself and casually lied. My surname is Radamil. Miss Radamil. His hand grasped mine. Nice to meet you. I wish you a pleasant evening. For some reason. Nice to meet you. These 4 words were uttered by him with particular emphasis. I noticed the tattoo on his elbow. By the time he left, my back was already soaked with sweat. The tattoo seemed to say, NN. The people around me couldn't help but start discussing it. You're actually the first woman he's shaken hands with in all these years. Back then, a young lady from a prestigious family wanted to shake his hand, but he said his wife keeps him on a tight leash and doesn't allow him to touch others. Did you notice his tattoo? They say it's his wife's name, but that tattoo, it looks a lot like my name, Wallace. After all I've done to him, with his vindictive nature, how could that be possible? I closed my eyes. It must be a coincidence. I always feel like this auction isn't quite legitimate. It seems that to warm up the crowd, the first items auctioned were actually torture devices. The first lot was a pair of diamond-studded shackles. Each diamond sparkled brilliantly under the lights, adorning the cold metal. Host's introduction. This is a shackle personally crafted by the master. It's not just a tool of confinement, but also a fine piece of art. I wore a mask, feeling somewhat nervous. At that moment, Ollie raised the paddle and bought it at an astonishing price. At that moment, whether it was my imagination or not, his gaze swept lightly over me. The apartment we initially lived in together was carefully purchased by him. At first, I didn't understand why he bought such large floor-to-ceiling windows and a bathtub spacious enough for 2. All these mysteries were revealed on the very day we confirmed our relationship. Pinned against the window, I watched the bustling traffic below, feeling a shameful sense of being exposed, fearing I might grow tired of a single position. He deliberately bought numerous adult toys, the variety of which left me astonished. That night, before I could even escape the bathtub, I was pulled back, dripping with sweat. Time and time again. I wonder Ollie felt when he saw me calling him terrible in bed. The second auction item was a restraint chair. The third auction item was a pair of handcuffs. Each item Ollie successfully bid on. What did he buy these for? Memories of that night slowly flooded into my mind, as if these things had already been used on me. After these 3 exhibits ended, the following items suddenly became normal. Only the last one left me stunned. It was a drawing I made as a child. Ollie raised his paddle and bought it at a high price. People around me started whispering among themselves. That looks like Mrs. Porter's painting. They say Mrs. Porter left Mr. Ollie because he made a mistake, and he's been unable to forget her all these years. Yeah, no one knows where his wife went all these years. Mr. Ollie has been searching for her like crazy. I was stunned. Ollie, what did he do wrong? And more. Since when did I become Mrs. Porter? I clearly humiliated him like that. The system instantly understood. I get it. He must be planning to spread rumors about his relationship with you first, so that when you return, he can rightfully tie you to his side and torment you. Truly a villain, holding grudges over the slightest offense. What a scheming mind. It scared me so much I trembled, and I decided to keep my distance from Ollie. After the auction ended, all attendees moved to the grand hall to enjoy fine food and waltz. According to the plot, a mentally ill patient would suddenly attack Osborne. The system said that in the novel. It was because I took the knife for him that our relationship could skyrocket like a rocket launch. Although the previous plot has basically derailed. If I start behaving properly from now on, there might still be room for redemption. In order to protect Osborne at any time, I had no choice but to cautiously follow him. Afraid of being discovered, Ollie started his entrepreneurial journey during his school days and has now risen to the top of Forbes' list as a business tycoon, notorious for his ruthless and cunning reputation. Whereas Osborne's achievements merely stem from inheriting the Liu family's legacy. In the novel, they were supposed to be evenly matched protagonists and antagonists. How did things end up like this? I shook these thoughts out of my head. No matter what, completing the task is the most important thing. At that moment, I was forcefully pushed to the ground. Immediately after, the screams of the guests could be heard. A burly man, resembling a black bear spirit, charged with a knife toward Osborne at that moment, causing everyone to flee in panic. In the chaos, my mask was knocked off. I stood in front of Osborne, but the expected pain never came. Instead, the burly man let out a pig-slaughtering scream. In the darkness, I was pulled into a man's embrace, a secure embrace, with scorching hands gripping my waist tightly. Yet those hands were trembling slightly. Wallace, you're wonderful. You almost died just now. Do you know that? You haven't come back for 5 years. And now that you finally return, you dare take a knife for someone else. I've truly spoiled you rotten. My ear ached from his bite. Like affection, yet like punishment. His eyes were filled with icy coldness, like a furious black net. Did you run away for so long because I didn't satisfy you that night? Some say that humans only use 10% of their brains. I think he's right. No wonder I used all my lifelong wisdom to write myself a suicide note in just 0.1 seconds. I'm in Ollie's arms, shaking uncontrollably. Oh no, I've been caught by the villain. He still remembers what happened that night. The system is a liar. 5 years have passed, and he hasn't forgotten a thing. But there was no other way. That night, the system gave me 1 day to cut all ties with him completely. I racked my brains that day, but couldn't come up with a perfect solution. In the end, I had to insult his performance in bed to make him resent me. Ollie, who is he? That's the infamous villain. Ruthless, cruel, and extremely vindictive. Those who dare betray him won't even know how they died. For the past 5 years, he's been searching for me, but he'll never find me. Under the system's protection, I've lived safely abroad for 5 years, completely beyond his reach. He hasn't gotten a single clue about me, but now, I've fallen into his hands. He will surely try every means to torment me. I wish I could just faint and die right in his arms. But now I must remain utterly clear-headed and stare straight into his eyes. It's always good to start with a greeting, right? Hi. Long time no see, Mr. Ollie. But the next second, for some reason, Ollie tightened his grip around my waist. Oh no. Did I say something wrong again? Ollie drew closer, his eyes swirling with dark emotions. Gritting his teeth, his eyes red. He spoke word by word, as if both angry and sorrowful. You didn't talk to me like this before. Yes, I used to call him brother. Later, she called him her boyfriend, rather than Mr. Ollie. But now, our positions are worlds apart. Moreover, I once hurt him. There was no going back. I deliberately ignored his previous question. Really? Haven't I always been like this? It's been so many years since we last met. You seem to be doing quite well. Haha. His eyes turned fierce as he suddenly pulled me into his arms and kissed me forcefully. MMMPH. I pushed against him with all my strength, but couldn't budge him an inch. Those large hands were scorching hot, firmly gripping my wrists, forcing me to endure this kiss. The kiss was no longer restrained, ferocious and cruel, nearly suffocating me. If not for his embrace, my legs would have weakened to the point of buckling beneath me. Ollie pinned my shoulders with near loss of control, his hands like iron clamps, threatening to crush my bones. He was like a wounded beast, his eyes red, his voice choked with immense pain. Wallace, what makes you think I've been doing well? You know perfectly well. These have been the worst, most miserable 5 years of my life. My resistance was drowned in a shattered kiss. In a dazed state of consciousness, Ollie bit my ear, her voice barely audible. It seemed to say, "You're so cruel to me." The venue for this auction was a remodeled large hotel. Rooms are everywhere. There's nowhere for me to escape. He forcefully pressed me onto a large bed in one of the rooms, my hands bound by Ollie's belt and pinned above my head, leaving me unable to struggle. I wanted to move again, but he threatened me. You wouldn't want me to use those things I bought on you, would you? I thought of those items he had won at the auction. Joke's on him. My greatest strength is knowing when to bend and when to stand firm. I immediately lay still, as peaceful as a corpse, a heart full of sorrow. This is the end. All my plans have been ruined. Tonight's heroic rescue of the male lead was completely Ollie's doing. Who knows how long it will be before another golden opportunity like this, once in a century, comes around again. My mind was on the mission. So when Ollie leaned in to kiss me, I asked him, "What's happening outside? Has that villain been subdued? Is Osborne hurt?" Then he bit me hard on the neck, the pain nearly bringing tears to my eyes. "You certainly care a lot about Osborne, rushing to take a hit for him the moment you got back." "Yeah, come to think of it, you've always loved watching him play the piano since we were kids." His tone was soft yet barbed, sour with a hint of bitterness, a smile that concealed a knife. The situation seems to be turning increasingly unfavorable for me. I feel terribly wronged. I enjoy watching him play the piano, but it's not just to confirm whether he's the male lead. Isn't it perfectly normal for the male lead to play piano pieces skillfully and beautifully? In a panic, I quickly blurted out a sentence to protect myself. "I also love listening to you play the piano." He clearly froze for a moment, and his expression finally softened slightly. He leaned down, lifting a strand of my hair. "Osborne is fine. My people have already taken him under protection. Rather than that, you should worry about yourself first." I felt a wave of oppression wash over me, my words stumbling out. What do you want to do?" "Of course, to correct the mistake." His hand caressed my face. "The experience I gave you that night was poor, making you leave me for a full 5 years. His gloomy smile faded into the darkness. "This time, I'll make sure you don't even have the strength to run." My heart pounded like thunder. I know. Every time he speaks to me in that tone, he means serious business. The first firecracker of the new year went off. What happened afterward was so deeply etched in my memory. I don't want to recall it, but I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. Without a doubt. He made every part of my body remember him vividly. Many times. I had already crawled away, only to be grabbed by the ankle and forcibly pulled back by him. The next morning, I woke up beside him. The bite marks all over my body reminded me of what had happened the night before. After half a second of hesitation, my gaze landed on Ollie. He was bare-chested, his eyes closed. Sunlight fell upon him, his long lashes casting delicate shadows beneath his eyes. Breathtakingly beautiful. I paused for a moment, instinctively reaching out to touch him. The system sounded an alarm. What are you doing now? Isn't this the perfect opportunity? Run for your life. Startled by it, I jerked my hand back. You're one to talk. Where were you last night? Only showing up now. System. Look who's talking. Do you think I wanted this? Last night my vision was completely filled with mosaics. Overwhelming mosaics everywhere. I don't even want to talk about it. I was speechless. But I still stubbornly retorted. What else can I do? He's hated me for 5 years. Of course he'd seek revenge. Still, I had to make my escape. If I kept wasting time here with him, how was I supposed to complete my mission? I gritted my teeth against the soreness as I picked up my clothes from the floor and dressed. About to leave when a strong hand suddenly grabbed me, pulling me back by the waist. Still able to walk. His face was cold as he said, "Seems I wasn't harsh enough last night." Turns out he had woken up at some point without me noticing, but they deliberately pretended to sleep. Probably just to test my attitude and catch me red-handed. I finally realized a harsh truth. If I don't appease the villain, there's no way I can escape. If I fall into their hands, they would never let me walk out unscathed. Faced with such a crisis, I was internally hopping with anxiety, turning into a broken record. What to do, what to do, what to do. The system also did 10 push-ups on the spot. Then desperately suggested, How about you try coaxing him? Coax. How? Just as Ollie's hand was about to touch the handcuffs on the nightstand. He threatened last night that if I dared to leave him and run away, he would handcuff my hands to the bed. Suddenly, I gritted my teeth, hardened my heart, wrapped my arms around his neck, and kissed his lips. The next second, Ollie suddenly widened his eyes. It was the first time in 5 years that I had taken the initiative to kiss him. Though reckless, one has to admit his emotions seemed to have stabilized. No longer as violent as before. My chances of winning have always stemmed from his indulgence. He finally softened, no longer touching the handcuffs on the cabinet, lying beside me, yet still tightly encircling my waist. His voice low and hoarse. Behave. Stay by my side. As long as you're good. Right now. I can give you anything. My heart is beating very fast. But if I stay with you, I won't be able to complete my mission. But now the villain is right by my side. And he seems extremely insecure. If I dare say a single no to him, he might lose it at any moment. I could only curl up beside him and softly, in response. That day, we stayed together the whole time. He took me to his villa. The villa is far from the city, and it's impossible to hail a taxi around here. As if afraid I might run away. During the day, he would stay with me on the living room sofa, working remotely. I shifted my gaze from the comic book and cautiously glanced at him. His sharp profile was strikingly handsome. After 5 years apart, he seemed to have gained even more charm. The way he focused on his work was incredibly attractive. Why isn't he the male lead? Noticing my gaze, Ollie didn't look up but reached out, pulling me effortlessly into his arms. On the computer, he was in a remote call with his secretary. Mr. Ollie, has Madam returned? Ollie wore a barely perceptible smile on his face. Yes. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Judging by this, is Madam no longer angry? I felt a slight scratch in the palm of my hand. By the time I realized it, in a place the secretary couldn't see, Ollie held my hand and secretly intertwined his fingers with mine. Yeah, I made a mistake 5 years ago and spent all last night apologizing. My face suddenly burned crimson. Spent all night apologizing. You'd better mean that apology. I've really become honest now. Even if I have to run away in the future. I can't say it's because he's bad in bed anymore. The video call ended. I asked him, "Since when was I your wife?" Ollie gazed at me with his pitch-black eyes, holding me on his lap as he squinted and teased, "Shall I remind you, my lady, how you addressed me that night?" Me? That night 5 years ago when we confirmed our relationship. I did call him hubby a few times for fun, but that doesn't mean I'm actually his wife. I pouted in grievance. How can that count? We never actually got married. As if he'd been waiting for me to say exactly this. His eyes suddenly lit up as he smiled at me. Then, "Shall we get married?" Ha! I'm stunned. This is so sudden. As Ollie's gaze grew increasingly dim, the system alerted me. Pretend to agree with him for now. What we're best at is roundabout tactics. At worst, we can find an opportunity to run away later and disappear for another 3 to 5 years. Me. I can guarantee that if I disappear again, Ollie would truly go mad. Next time he finds me, it won't be as simple as just locking me up. Moreover, after last night, my body is genuinely a bit scared. My knees are still sore from being rubbed raw. At this point, there's really no choice but to pretend to obey him for now. I lowered my head and responded softly. "Oh, because I've been very well behaved and performed well lately." Ollie gradually stopped thinking I would run away. I thought I was disguising myself quite well. Drowsy on the sofa, he would coax me to sleep on the bed, and I would unresistingly open my arms for him to carry me over. When I encounter dishes I don't want to eat, I still do as I did in childhood, pile them all into his bowl, and he accepts every bit without complaint. I'll act coquettishly with him. I'll be willful with him. But when I mention Osborne taking the knife for me, his face still darkens. Ollie is terrified that I might die. I knew it since I was little. When I was 11, I accidentally fell into a lake. When I was rescued, I wasn't breathing. My whole body was deathly pale, without a trace of life. Everyone says I might be beyond saving. He desperately performed CPR on me. They said the despair in his eyes was like a bottomless black hole. His eye sockets frighteningly red. He once said that if I couldn't be revived, he would sink to the bottom of the lake to be buried with me. When it comes to me, he's always this extreme. Sometimes I think, how wonderful it would be if he were truly the male lead. In that case, I wouldn't be in such a dilemma now. About a month later, he completely let his guard down with me. He returned my phone to me. It was at this moment that I received Osborne's message. "Wallace, where are you? Are you okay? Are you hurt?" I raised my face and said to Ollie, "I'm homesick. Can I go home for a visit?" Ollie wasn't too pleased, but seeing the longing in my eyes, he eventually agreed to accompany me back. He had no affection for that home. From the moment he was born, he was mistakenly taken away by someone else. He was supposed to be a child born with hope and love. Yet all that love was given to someone else. He could have been like Osborne, receiving constant praise from his parents from his first words to his first steps. But what about him? He was taken away by a violent, impoverished gambler. How many times did he nearly die? In the dead of winter, the gambler would vent his anger on him after losing bets. locking him outside the door. At that time, he was only 5 years old, with no properly fitting clothes, wearing a short-sleeved summer shirt. The debt collectors came knocking, and that heartless gambler, without a second thought, pushed the child in front of them and fled. Unable to get their money, those men vented all their rage on him, striking him mercilessly with knives and clubs. Now Ollie still bears the scars from that time. I thought that once I arrived at the Porter household, happiness would follow. He would encounter parents who loved him. All the lost love would return to him. Yet, the moment he stepped through the door, before he could even lift his eyes to see his birth parents, he was met with a cold warning. They said, the most important people in this family were Osborne and Wallace. At that moment, I watched helplessly as the light in his eyes faded away. The system said, "It's quite rare for you to accidentally end up winning over the villain." According to the original plot, after arriving at the Porter family's house, he would regard you as his greatest enemy and try every means to torment those who replaced him. Look at page 46 of the novel. When no one was around, he led you to a blind spot of surveillance and pushed you into the lake. And here, he deliberately took you to an unfamiliar place and left you near people suspected of being traffickers before walking away. But originally, the antagonist existed to advance the relationship between the male and female leads. After going through these trials, your bond with Osborne would have deepened. It's a pity none of this happened. One wrong step leads to many more. I watched alongside the system, never expecting that if I hadn't pursued him, the original plot would have unfolded like this. When I was little, I accidentally fell into a very deep lake because I was too busy playing. Not a single passerby dared to save me. Without hesitation, he jumped in and desperately pulled me out. Afterward, he gazed at the lake with dark eyes and said, "If only we could fill it in." Another time, I was targeted by human traffickers and almost dragged into a car. It was him who risked his life to hold onto the trafficker's car, buying me enough time to be rescued. Strangely, I found myself feeling somewhat relieved. I finally returned to the Porter household. Osborne immediately drove over upon hearing the news of my return. He looked at me with heartache, holding my hand. "Where have you been these 5 years? Why haven't I heard anything from you? Do you know how much I've missed you? You're so foolish, so frail. Yet you rushed to take a knife for me. Are you hurt anywhere?" I said.
Are you asking about the plot in the novel? In the novel, after you get together with Osborne, Ollie commits suicide alone in a dark corner. None of that matters. His biggest role as the antagonist is just to bring the male and female leads together. Right. Once his task is done, of course the author wouldn't waste any more words on him. My heart suddenly turned cold. The system kept chattering on. Now the villain is lying in a hospital bed at death's door, absolutely incapable of interfering with you anymore. This is the perfect opportunity. You must seize it. But I suddenly said, "I'm not doing the mission anymore." The system was about to say something more, but upon hearing my words, it suddenly froze. "What do you mean by this? What do you mean you're not doing the mission anymore?" I said, "I don't want to pursue the male lead anymore. I don't want Ollie to die." The system became anxious. "But if you don't complete the mission, you won't be able to go home. Then I won't go back. After all, in that world, I'm just an orphan. Have you forgotten what I told you when we bound? Defying the world line will get you erased. Erasure means no one will remember you. Everything you have here will vanish. Ollie will forget you. But following the world line, Ollie will die." I said, "In that case, let me be the one to disappear." The emergency room light went out. The doctor said the surgery was successful, but the patient still hasn't woken up. I stayed by Ollie's side without eating or drinking. Time really passed so very long. During that time, Osborne urged me many times to take a break and go home to get some proper sleep. But I still didn't leave. Looking at Ollie's pale face, I couldn't hold back my tears, closing my eyes as they streamed down. Just when I thought Ollie would keep sleeping like this forever, a hand reached out and wiped away my tears. I opened my eyes, and under the moonlight, Ollie had somehow opened his. He said, "Wallace, don't cry. Never cry for me." I held his hand and said, "I've picked out our wedding rings. You need to get better soon. You still have to take me to try on wedding dresses." Ollie slowly widened his eyes, as if afraid I might regret it. He replied hoarsely but firmly, "Okay." 2 months later, Ollie had fully recovered. He often brags about that incident. "Osborne, are you really okay now? You're not going to die, are you?" With the marriage certificate in hand, Ollie was in a good mood and didn't hold much resentment towards him anymore. "Of course I'm fine. Otherwise, Wallace would cry for me, and I couldn't bear that. Getting into a car accident just to make Wallace cry for me once is way too good a deal for me." Osborne rolled his eyes and said, "You might as well be dead." On the day of the wedding, I quietly awaited the annihilation promised by the system. Yet, for some reason, the annihilation never came. Come to think of it, I haven't heard the system's voice for many days now. My head suddenly throbbed with excruciating pain. A flood of memories rushed into my mind. The truth is, I actually died when I was 11 years old. The first time I came to this world, I was only 10 years old. Called Wallace Porter, the Porter family's adopted daughter. This was before dying. I seemed to faintly hear Ollie's desperate cry, "I don't want to die." I signed a contract with the system to travel to various worlds and conquer the male protagonists. But what I didn't know was that afterwards, Ollie also jumped into that lake. Later on, Ollie followed along as well. In every world I conquer, the male lead is always him. But after I successfully conquer him, he quickly leaves for the next world. So this time, he no longer chooses to be the male lead, but instead becomes the villain. He was truly clever, accumulating strength in each world. And at the critical moment, he dealt a fatal blow to his system, breaking free from its control. At the same time, he drained my system's power, forcing it into hibernation. He gave me the chance to recognize the true male lead. But due to the interference of the world's timeline, he forgot all of this and merged with the antagonist from the original story. Because of this car accident, he remembered again. Knowing the system wanted to erase me, he was furious to death. He broke the rules, using the abilities he had accumulated over the years in various worlds, and severed the bond between me and the system. He successfully kept me. The system messed with my memories, making me mistakenly believe I had a home to return to and someone waiting for me. But in truth, I had already returned home. If I had followed the system's control, I might never have made it home. I looked at Ollie, emotions surging within me. I rushed forward, stood on tiptoe, and kissed him. Ollie paused for a moment, then hugged me and laughed. My bride seems to be impatient already. I told him, "Ollie, I really love you so much." His eyes widened, and his ears visibly turned red. We held a grand wedding ceremony witnessed by everyone. After that, we traveled to many places together, making up for all the time we had missed. This time, no one could control us anymore.